Hello everyone, this is Kenneth Wong, your Burmese language instructor. This episode is technically a bite-sized Burmese episode, but this might be more like a bowl than a bite, and it might take some mental efforts to digest, I'm afraid. Today we are talking about poetry. Specifically, we are talking about the opening lines from a famous poem called Pyimma, written by Thu Wun. The first stanza of the poem goes like this. Pyimma I'll repeat it. I'll break down these lines to help you understand the fundamentals of the classic four-syllable Burmese poems. This is a good example of it. First, let's talk about the rhythm. Burmese is monosyllabic, so you wouldn't hear the English language quintessential iambic pentameter with up and down, like, shall I compare thee to a summer's day, thou art more lovely and more temperate. Instead, you'll hear rows and rows of distinct single syllables strung together. In this case, happens to be in four-syllable structures. The four-syllable structure is called leilongzap. Leilong for four words or four count or four beat, four syllable. Sa is composition. So leilongzap, four syllable composition. With that in mind, listen to this opening stanza again. Where is the rhyme? You might be asking. Rhymes are called kayang in Burmese, by the way. Don't look at the end of the lines for kayang or rhyming words, my friend, because the rhyme scheme in the four-syllable structure is much more complicated than that. They're just not end rhymes. They are buried in position 4, 3, and 2 from the lines counting from the top to the bottom, like a step ladder. To be precise, the fourth syllable dwa in puteyotwa rhymes with the third syllable ta in lentado, and the second lines ma in Pyimma. Twa, ta, ma are the rhymes in that part that goes puteyotwa lentado, Pyimma. But when you get to Pyimma, you'll notice that the fourth syllable is now do, and that kicks off a whole new pattern again. Do rhymes with o in the subsequent line, techa odi, and mo in the line, gomo tetrin that comes later. So, puteyotwa lentado, Pyimma techa odi, gomo tetrin debendi. So the rhymes are in syllable positions 4, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, and it goes on till the end of the poem. Now let's talk about the meaning. The title, Pyimma refers to a tree stump, specifically a Pyimma tree stump. The common name for this botanical specimen in English is Queen's crepe myrtle or Queen's flower, obviously a name commemorating the Queen in colonial history. The original Burmese word Pyimma doesn't have the same connotations. It's leafy with robust trunk and stems offering ample shades. It's an important function in Southeast Asia's merciless cruel sun. The opening line puteyotwa is strung together with texture describing words. Pu for bumpy, te for ridges, yotwa for crusty swelling, like the flesh around an old wound. For a native Burmese speaker, just by reciting these lines, you can feel the texture of the Pyimma trunk, full of knots and knurls, ridges and bumps. And if that's not enough, the poem gives you another image to visualize. It says, lentado, like a vulture. The following line establish who we are talking about. Pyimma techa odi, the aging Pyimma tree stump. Now comes the punchline to round out the scene. Gong mo tet twin, upon a lonely heath, a mound, Depicting as a single solitary thing, a single standing thing. Puti yutwa ngelentado biemangoto thatcha odi gongmo tetwin depicting, gnarled, knotted with humps and ridges, like a vulture on a mound stood a lonely Pyimma tree stump. The whole poem has 4 stanzas, with the last one running twice as long as the ones that come before it. Now let me give you the whole poem in entirety with my translation. Yemangoto by Min Thu Wun. Puti yutwa ngelentado Yemangoto thecha odi gomo tetwin dibindi, gnarled, knotted with humps and ridges, like a vulture on a mound stood the lonely Pyimma stump. Kwazong akwe, the Kang Zuele, a pe dela, ein amado, jezwa, heppe, cha engye. The bending bow at the split is a hollowed, rotten termite shelter, a scab encrusted, gaping wound. Gomo gamba, nye pachadwen, setha kamau pain chow chow le, seyao sakan, lepia nyo. A soldier's shriveled war helmet resting on the mound's edge points to a battle's reach. Topingoto Pyimma odi, siko lechong cha ong lepit, da ten lekan, ne liang letai, le bien kai lia, mangai ugao, nui de lao do, yue hao nya jui, yue the wei yue, le bie de dui, nge yo sendi, a thin yao cha gaon daga. This severed trunk, aged and withered, has faced warfare, endured termites, the sword's hack, the sun's flames, and the gale's wrath, and yet it stands with its head held high. When summer returns, it sheds old stems and springs new leaves, youthful again in the breeze. A mighty gallant man is he. The last line, a thin yaochagaon daga, with an explicit reference to a mighty male figure, suggests the poet wants to remind us of the quiet, stoic men who might have survived warfare, faced adversities in life, and is still capable of remaking themselves after repeated failures and downfalls. Now, personally, I can easily find women who embody such qualities and characters, but this is not my poem. These are the words of the poet Min Thu Wun, and my faithful translation merely reflects them. The poem was written in 1949, 1 year after Burma became independent, and the young nation was still struggling with the rise of communist insurgency, ethnic division, and political inexperience. So the poem, we could surmise, expresses hope that the country can somehow overcome these problems and remake itself, like a war veteran might find a new purpose in life. You can find out more about the poet in the link below. To break down the entire poem line by line would be beyond the scope of a single podcast episode. My goal is not to do a detailed analysis of the whole poem for each stanzas, but to introduce you to the basic features, the bare essentials of a well-known, beloved Burmese poem. So I'm going to stop here. I hope this stirred up enough curiosity in you so that you might explore other Burmese poems in the original language and read them alongside available English translations. Until next time, I'm Kenneth Wong, your Burmese language instructor. See you later. Namadwe me.